Hello all of you. I don't know where you are. I hope you are at home, most of you. Tell us where you are. Ask us questions during this guided tour. We're here at the Stedelijk Museum Amsterdam. We're here at the Stedelijk. And we go down the stairs into the exhibition. We go down into the collection of the Stedelijk. You can online, I can answer some of them. Some of them I won't be able to answer. I don't know everything. But what I try and say to you is all about my engagement also for the Stedelijk. We're going to do a tour through the permanent collection, through parts of the permanent collection. We can until the 1970s, the 1980s, because we have locked down most of the museum. And specifically for this tour today, we were able to open parts of the exhibition. I'm here with only a few people. I'm here with 3 people over there, and we try and keep the social distance of 1.5 meters or even a bit more. And we're also with Serge, who is taking care of all of us in terms of security, in terms of us, but we also want you to be secure at home. And what we're doing is showing you kind of the power of the arts. We are here not only for the Stedelijk, we are here also for the other museums, because we have the feeling that we have to continue walking through exhibitions, like imaginatively walking through exhibitions. I try and speak in English today because we have a lot of English visitors on our channels. Sometimes ga ik ook even iets in het Nederlands zeggen tegen de Nederlandse vrienden en fans die ook aanwezig zijn. But when you have the feeling, I should have done it in Dutch, but we are a very international museum and we have, especially on the social media, a very international group of followers and fans. So I want to start with one of the icons from our collection. I want to start with Marc Chagall. We have 2 paintings right up here in the permanent collection. We just put them in before we had to lock down the museum. We just lay because they were for a long time in a special exhibition called Migrants in Paris. And we have about 9 famous Chagall paintings in the Stedelijk, and we have a lot of works on paper. And there were a lot of years not been seen because there was a big restoration project taking place on those Chagalls, and we found a lot of very important things in terms of drawings underneath the paintings. And we will there is a film being made which is also available on YouTube, and we will also in the future show you more about the new insights on those Chagall paintings. If you want to know more about Chagall, the best thing when you're in Holland is that every Tuesday you will try and have a look into the television series by Jeroen Krabbe, who is taking us on an inside walk, and an inside concentration kind of walk into the world of Marc Chagall every Tuesday on NPO2, I think at 8:25 p.m. So please have a look at Jeroen Krabbe, because we have the feeling that it gives you a lot of more insight into the personal life of Marc Chagall, but also inside the world of his paintings and the dreamy world of his paintings. From Chagall, I want to make a small step in time, but I would like to make a bigger step in terms of how artists are thinking about the way they are able to depict the world. I want to go to another Russian painter. I want to go to the work of Malevich, Kazimir Malevich. Probably you know that here in the Stedelijk we have the biggest collection of Malevich outside of Russia, outside of the former Soviet Union. And I want to walk with you to this famous corner here. This corner is kind of a remake of a famous exhibition that Malevich had in 1913, as 1914, as the first as a first step in which the abstract painting was all of a sudden completely there. There was a huge retrospective on Kazimir Malevich here at the Stedelijk in 2013. And I started to work at another museum in 2013 in the Bundeskunsthalle in Bonn. And one of my first steps was that I was able to take the retrospective from the Stedelijk Museum also to Bonn, also to the Bundeskunsthalle. And when we opened the exhibition in 2014 in Bonn, the painting which was the most important painting in our exhibition was this one here, which is called... It's a work from Malevich in 2015, and we had it hanging all on its own at the entrance of the exhibition, more or less before the exhibition was starting. And the most important thing about this painting is for me that it's an important step on the way to abstraction. It's like a collection of different geometric forms in which you can see that geometry is not complete geometry. It's always painted. It's always, you see a lot of painted structure also inside, and you see that sometimes what seem to be like straight lines are not straight lines at all, and it's much more painterly when you come near than what you think when you see the painting from a bit further away. It's a self-portrait. When we do our best, we see a face. We can see elements of a face which come in a different kind of organization, kind of situation together. And it's also as forms, as if those flat forms are floating on a flat surface. And that's what painting is about, because when we think about the big step of thinking from painting as something with a perspective, the two-dimensional surface, and it's about the way painting becomes something which is restricted also to the confines of being two-dimensional. I want to make a bit of a bigger step, if you allow me, and I want to walk a bit further, and we walk past some different works and some different periods in the collection here in this base kind of collection display which we have here at the Stedelijk. And we have, of course, this big wall here of Cobra with the big Karl Appel painting, which is very expressionist. But basically, I want to go a bit along to a next step. And from Appel, I want to go to another Dutch painter. I want to go very shortly to Piet Mondrian. Because I have the feeling this painting of Piet Mondrian, we were just talking about ways to abstraction and ways of you thinking about art in which you are also able to dive into kind of a two-dimensional world. There we see this painting of Piet Mondrian, which is from 1917. It's a windmill, and this windmill is such a, in a way, a very Dutch windmill, but because of its colors, because of the way it's painted, it's a big step towards something which became later for Piet Mondrian his world of horizontal and vertical lines and only like primary colors. So yeah. It's a way. Yeah, we have a question here.
I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but somebody wants to know who that painting is from, the big one.
Somebody wants to know the big painting we just passed by. That's a big painting by Karl Appel, and we are one of the museums in the world who have the biggest Karl Appel collection. By the way, Karl Appel will turn 100. He will not turn 100 years because he's not alive anymore. But next year will be 100 years Karl Appel, and we will have a smaller exhibition. We are planning it. We all don't know how it comes out in those crisis kind of times, but the idea is to do a small Karl Appel exhibition next year at the Stedelijk Museum. Karl Appel was one of the founding fathers of Cobra, and when we see, and this is the, let's say, the way the art history is going through different kind of cycles. We just were in the period in which we found the ways to abstraction. And with Karl Appel, we all of a sudden are away from the abstraction again, and we are in a complete figurative and very expressionist kind of style. He was the leading father of the Cobra painters, and he was, of course, also a painter who was very much looking at the inspiration from other worlds. Today, we are defining a new position towards the way that artists were thinking about other periods and trying to take some elements from other cultures into their work. For instance, next year we're doing an exhibition, a big exhibition at the Stedelijk on the one hand, Ernst Ludwig Kirchner, who we also have in the exhibition and also have here in the display, together with Nolde, and we show explicitly how those two painters were working with formal language from different regions in the world, and also we have to ask in these kind of ways some questions in terms of colonization and decolonization, and those are all things which today in the art world are very much as a hot topic. We go on, we leave Mondrian, and also on the other hand, we leave Appel besides two of the most important painters.
I have a special request for de Kooning.
We have a special request I heard from de Kooning. So it's somebody who knows who knows all about the Stedelijk, who knows the parkour in a way. Because I wanted to say something about Barnett Newman, but I will also do something with de Kooning on the other hand, because we have in a way two different ways of painting here, which kind of came into existence in more or less the same kind of period. We have this de Kooning painting from 1963, and I just have to have a short look because I didn't prepare. It's called Rosy Fingered Dawn at Lewes Point, and the Stedelijk is one of the museums in the world with the most important collection in terms of Willem de Kooning, who was born in Rotterdam, who left from Rotterdam to New York and spent his life as an American artist, but still has these Dutch roots. And what is very important, and I remember when I was young to see a big show at the Stedelijk about the Northern Atlantic Light, which was de Kooning's specialty, to be able to turn this light from the Atlantic into a very kind of interesting and very lighty kind of color palette, which is in which colors come together in quite an expressive way. So the Kooning as a representant maybe also from the, let's say, the abstract expressionist kind of painting. And on the other side, which is also very important in the Stedelijk collection, now we're all the time still talking about male painting. That's something I just put in between. I do some female artists also, but the steps until here were mostly about male painting, which is still represented, I must say, in most of most museums. And it's also all about, or mostly about Western European and Northern American painting. So what we see here is Barnett Newman. And with Barnett Newman we come to that what I told you when we started this tour. I wanted to talk with you about immersion. I wanted to talk with you about diving into something and becoming a part of painting, becoming a part of art. And I think in our times in which we are sitting alone at home and we are trying to get some focus on things, trying to think about meditation techniques probably, or trying to think about how to concentrate on something, or trying to think how we can find some universal idea about where the world is or where we will be going. These kind of paintings by Barnett Newman I think are very important, like this cathedra painting here, which by the way was heavily destroyed in 1997 by somebody who attacked the painting, like the same person who also attacked before the other iconic painting of Barnett Newman, which we have in our collection, who was afraid of red, yellow and blue. And two words to the red, yellow and blue painting of Barnett Newman. It's not in our show here because it was as a loan in an exhibition in the Kunsthalle Bremen on icons, and it was just returned last Friday on the last day that we were able to take back loans to our storage. This is also what happens with lockdown. So for Newman, it's a religious way of thinking, also in terms of this cathedra, in which the small white line is like a is like the throne of God in a deep blue sky. We have a question.
Yeah, somebody would like to know what's the earliest painting done by a female we have in our collection.
Yeah.
If you know that.
The earliest painting of a female we have in our collection, I could not answer this question right now. We have female painters and artists. Sorry?
Could be Anna Boch.
Anna Boch I was thinking about, but I'm not sure. But that must be about the oldest works in the collection. But I can't be perfectly sure, and we will look it up, and maybe we can answer you in another way. I have to ask my researchers and my curators, but she could be the earliest. But we are like finding more and more female painters in the collection also, and we are planning to do something with a kind of forgotten female painter with a name in which she turned her female name into a male name, Nicolaas Warp. She was a woman, but she thought that a male name could be functioning better in this male domain of painting. We are thinking about doing something with her work next year, and we have some works in the collection, and we also showed this in the Migrants in Paris exhibition. So we are finding more and more. When you're going through a collection, it's also a matter of looking with other eyes to the collection, and that you are trying to find things which you had kind of a blockade or a kind of a break before, probably, in terms of finding them. So one more step into immersion and a second step into immersion with a female artist, but first with this male artist, Yves Klein. It's one of my favorite works of the collection, I must say. It's not only because the color blue is my favorite color, but it's also because it is such an immersive way of thinking about art. This blue of Yves Klein, this International Klein blue, as he registered it, as he patented it. It's his blue, and the longer you stand in front of this painting, the more you dive into it, and the more you become a part of it. And the sponge is kind of a metaphor of being part of it and being absorbed and getting absorbed in the painting. And the sponge is the absorbing quality of the painting on the one hand, and the sponge is also the spectator in a way who is taking and absorbing what he or she sees in front of him or her. And this Yves Klein way of painting blue, there's nobody being able to do it on the same kind of concentration kind of way, and not in the same kind of intensity, I would say. The golden painting next to it is also something he did quite often. Blue and gold were both of his special colors, but when we see also this small photo here of Yves Klein, then we come into, then we get a clue of his work also in a way. The photo is called Zo dan de Wiede. It's, in English, it's Leap into the Void. And when we see this, and when we are sitting at home today, and we are watching the news, and we are thinking about the world, and we see Yves Klein here diving into the void, diving into the emptiness, like floating in between things. It's a metaphor probably also about some kind of the way, some feelings we are having right now. So we say goodbye to Yves Klein for this moment, and we walk through this labyrinth, which the base display is in a way, and we walk to a female artist who was important in the 60s and 70s, and then for a long time was not that en vogue anymore. But a few years ago, she had a bigger show at the Kunstmuseum Den Haag also. And they also acquired work in the collection. It's a work by Lee Bontecou. Lee Bontecou is still alive. She was born, I have to have a quick look, in 1931. And the work is without title. It's untitled. It's from 1961. And the world is like the work of Yves Klein. It's also about the void. And it's also about hidden it's about hidden volumes. It's about hidden realities. It's about we're questioning ourselves. First of all, what materials are these? Is this sculpture? Is this painting? Is this spatial? Yes, it is spatial, but what kind of space is behind there? It's enigmatic, the work, I must say, and I think, and I always thought that, and that has always been my view on art in a way, that I always wanted to go for the enigma, and I always wanted to say we can understand a lot of the world, we can try and analyze everything, we can try and write reports about everything in the world, but the enigmatic quality of the artwork is something which we don't and which we should not forget, and we should respect also the kind of enigmatic quality. Now, we have a question again.
People miss the name of the artist. If you could
I say again the name of the artist, because the name of the artist almost looks like an old master painter. It's called Bontecou. So we zoom into it right now. Sven is zooming into it. Bontecou. It's an American artist, and a very American artist who was very much like rediscovered the last 10 or 20 years, I would say, and became a very, very important artist. So we are well on the way, I would say. We have a few more works to show. I wanted to show you these two works, but I have to say you they're not complete. We are in a kind of lockdown situation, and we have the night kind of electricity service of the museum, also in terms of security. So what we see here now are two of the most Instagrammable works of the Stedelijk since the last years, I must say. The only thing is the electricity is not working, and this has to do with the situation. So normally the neon parts on the two works should also be working, and then the lips of the two persons get a kind of glowy aura. Aura is also a good word, by the way. Well, I thought about Yves Klein and the other artists, but also where we started with Malevich, for instance. We have two artists here, and on the left hand we have Marc Chagall, and that painting is from, I think, 1965, and right here we have, or 1967, and right here we have Elaine Sturtevant, a female artist, who painted the same work 2 years later. And that's the practice of Elaine Sturtevant. Elaine Sturtevant, she did not copy the works of other artists. She spoke with the other artists. Normally she had a discussion with them, and then she redid a work of another artist, but she did it by hand. She did it normally not by copying it directly from a picture, but she redid it. It's about redoing an artwork, and it's about repeating an artwork. But of course the work by Sturtevant came out a bit different, slightly different from the work of Marc Chagall, one of the big French artists from the Nouveau Réaliste, from, let's say, the French version of pop art. So we have basically two pop paintings next to each other, the one by Ress, the one as the original, and the other one as the repeated original. I won't say it's a copy. It's not a Xerox or something. No, it's another painting. It's another work, and this is the practice of Elaine Sturtevant. So maybe the last work I wanted to say something about before we go up again, and I wanted to go with the escalator also because I say a bit about this when we go up again. The last work I wanted to say something about is the work by a painter who is it was very important to me, I must say, because when I was a student, I wrote my last paper on Robert Rein. I graduated because of the work of on the work of Robert Rein. And Robert Rein is a painter who always only painted white paintings. He had a few things which every work always on the same rectangular, are like quadratic. How do you call it? Square. All the works are square. All the works are white pigments on an underground, and all the works are being painted differently white again. And Rein painted with enamel paint on white. He painted with oil paint on white, with acrylic paint on white. He painted on metal. He painted on all kinds of different. I always said it's about the ontology of as painting. Like he was interested in when of the different works of painting become, let's say, what I want to say with those paintings at the end. Who I'm always very interested in, and I did an internship in the museums, and I never forget this, going along the 50 white paintings every day again, and storing them in my mind, and storing them for my thinking. So I wanted to slowly finishing, and we go through and this is about a bit more sad, and because it's we have no electricity here. We only have the light electricity, but we can't switch on the electricity on the video screens here on the monitors, and we can't switch on the electricity on the Joseph Kosuth here from the collection. So we are in the 70s, we are in the beginning of the 80s, and we are in the period that art became also working into different media. We only hear the sound because the sound is still on, because that comes from the same electricity as the lighting is coming, but we don't have the image from the Ulrike Rosenbach video here. So we also have, like you know, a lot of design in the collection, and as I am not a design specialist, I was not focusing on it today, because I was focusing mainly on painting, and I was focusing on the immersive qualities of painting and of the way how we can think and contemplate about painting. And yeah, we go on. We go slowly. By the way, that's one photo I want to show you as a final work, probably to show you, and that's Marina Abramovic and Ulay. And probably you know that Ulay died 2 weeks ago, and Ulay is a very important artist to me, like also Marina is a very important artist to me. And we will have a show, an exhibition, a bigger exhibition on Ulay as from the end of November this year. We are in the preparations, and we have the feeling that we still can go on with these preparations. And this is the registration of a performance in which they have a lot of tension between each other. They keep this tension up for minutes and minutes until they feel with themselves that they can't keep up the tension, so then the performance came to an end. It's a dangerous kind of performance in which the arrow is pointed towards her heart. At the moment they feel that they are losing the capacity to keep up the tension, they slowly let down and let away the tension, so that there was no dead artist at the end. Marina Abramovic and Ulay, both of them very important for the history of the Stedelijk, for the history of the Stedelijk in terms of becoming a museum for the time-based media at a very early point of time. I want to finish with them, and I want to go up with you. There is a question. Yeah,
it's more like a personal question.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy most about working for the Stedelijk Museum so far?
What do I enjoy most? It's strange times to become a director of the Stedelijk Museum, because when you have to think about locking down a museum and those kind of things, it's the worst time in a way to start a museum like this. But you know, I kind of grew up with this museum, and I always felt that this museum is my reference museum. And since I'm working here, I find out, yes, it is indeed my museum. It's indeed the museum in which I find again those icons of modern, and come to think about them now more deeply and more concentrated by it. And the Stedelijk has a collection which is engaging. And I think that is what we should do in the future also. We should be able to, we should try and find engagement in a collection like this. And this is what we have to talk about. And also in these times in which we can't visit the museum as such, it's so important that we keep up the engagement and that we keep up the let's say, the solidarity with one another in the art world, in the museum world, but also in the real world, and that we think also about, every now and then, that we think about, go up with you on the escalators. It can be difficult with the connection on that because of the materials here, but we go up again, we don't fall down. We leave now the museum sector, so to say, the arts sector. We have a rite de passage, as I always call it, and we go into another world, and we get all the way up, and we end in one of the later pieces of the collection. We end up with which is very confronting, which is very textual, but which is also very, very contemporary. And the Stedelijk is all about modern art, as I just showed you, but the Stedelijk is also a lot about contemporary. And the Stedelijk wants to be a museum which is focusing on the contemporary. Into your face installation, I want to say, we want to present you with a world. We want to present you with a world you can dive into. We want to present you with a world which is immersive, and we want to keep on being with you in those difficult times. And we plan with our online channels to be as present as possible. We will, in the next weeks, every day at 4 o'clock, we will come up with a small documentary on art, which has to do with the Stedelijk, on our Facebook and other social media displays. We will, what we did just now will be visible on YouTube soon, and you can dive into it again together with us, together with me. It will also be available on Facebook at some point of time, and of course next week we try and be back again with a curator, with Leontine Koolewij, if everything functions right. She would do a guided tour on the Namjoon Pike exhibition, which was supposed to open last week and could not be opened yet, and is still waiting in kind of a resting situation, waiting to be seen by all of you. And we will also focus on Bettine van Manen, which is also an exhibition at the Stedelijk right now, and that will be running. We try and program this for every Friday, but we wait and see how everything is developing, and you will be able to get information on it on our different channels. We want you to let us know what you think about it. You want you to leave your comments with us. We are doing something with those comments. We have time to reflect. We have time to discuss. We have time to rethink the future of the Stedelijk. And together with you, together with your comments, I have a very good feeling that we will. I want to say to you at the end of this tour, I want to say, touch with the arts. Stay in touch with immaterial questions. Stay in touch with the arts. Stay in touch with the museums, and stay at home. It's for the sake of all of us, and we'll be back with you. And we go through this together. See you soon.